Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. The polls open in just hours for what's been called one of New York City's best-kept secrets, the special election for public advocate. Tuesday's rare February vote features a crowded field with 17 names on the ballot, including familiar faces like Brooklyn Councilman Jumaane Williams and former City Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito. They're fighting to finish out the term of State Attorney General Letitia James, who recently vacated the watchdog-like post that's first in line to succeed the mayor. The race has been, at times, a slugfest, with candidates sparring on everything from Amazon to Mayor de Blasio's potential run for president. Here's what they had to say about that possibility during last week's debate on Spectrum News New York 1.
He's completely delusional if you think it's going to be president of the United States. I mean, our schools are failing. Our subways are crumbling. We lack affordable housing. I mean, he should apologize to New York City first.
The mayor may qualify to run for president. I'm not sure he's qualified to run for president, based again on the lack of focus on issues that are key and critical here in the city of New York that have gone unaddressed.
For a closer look at this race, the issues and what it could all mean for the city's political future, let's bring in city and state politics reporter Jeff Colton and Laura Namias of Politico New York. She's also the author of The New York Playbook. I'd like to welcome you both to the program.
Good to be here.
All right, and Laura, Jeff, whoever wants to take this one, with all of these different names, do we have any idea at least who the expected frontrunners are?
I don't have any idea, and I don't want to be embarrassed tomorrow if things go totally not the way that I thought they would. But we think that the candidates think that there are a few people who are front runners, and those are City Councilman Jumaane Williams, in part because of his performance in the fall elections when he did extraordinarily well running for lieutenant governor against incumbent Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, and also Melissa Mark Viverito, who a lot of New Yorkers likely know from being the former city council speaker. But other candidates, Assemblymember Mike Blake, thinks that he has raised a ton of money, and he thinks that he has the operation and turnout and union support that could put him over the top. Basically, in a very low turnout election, it could be anybody's race. A few stray votes cast in one borough, some bad weather in another could just change the whole outcome of the race.
Okay.
And that's what makes Queens City Councilman Eric Ulrich so interesting. He is the one mainstream Republican in the race, and he's up against basically 15 or so liberal Democrats. So he thinks that he can really win this election with only a small percentage of the votes. You know, usually Republicans don't have a chance in a heavily blue New York City. But because of the math of this race, Ulrich may actually have a chance.
He's also the only candidate who's been unabashedly pro-Amazon since the deal was announced to bring it to Queens. Obviously, that failed. And some people are speculating, wondering if there might be some sort of secret silent majority maybe of pro-Amazon voters who would turn out and support Ulrich because he was the only candidate who favored the deal from the get.
And that was a big deal that we saw in the debates, who was for, who was against, who took sort of a middle of the road, who was out first, et cetera. That did come up in terms of whose support was where when it came to Amazon. I do want to touch on, though, this is a nonpartisan election. And so what I thought was the most interesting thing about this is that everybody seems to have been able to pick their own party line. And so what are some of the more unusual lines that people could find themselves voting on that aren't just traditionally Democrat and Republican?
It's a total grab bag. Fix the MTA, no more delays. What was it? No Amazon? Is it no Amazon?
No Amazon, Ron Kim's line. Yes,
yes.
He's going heavily into the no Amazon, despite Amazon now being gone.
Eric Ulrich is common sense. I can't, obviously there are 17 of them.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I mean, I don't expect you to name all of them, but that's just sort of an idea, as the fact that
They're
usually
creative.
when people go into the polls, you know, they, at this point, unfortunately, are starting to tribally split themselves up, Republican, Democrat, and this is a case where that's not going to be the instance. Very quickly, for people who aren't quite sure, I alluded to the fact that public advocate is first in line behind the mayor, but what is the purpose of this particular position?
Well, it's funny you should ask. There's a lot of ambiguity around what exactly the job is, which has meant that for the score of years that the Post has actually existed, there have been frequent calls to get rid of it altogether. For that reason, it's sort of been made into whatever the occupant wants it to be. You have a lot of leverage to investigate things, but you have a very tiny budget, so you have to be pretty creative. Some public advocates have used the office to file lawsuits. Others just use it as sort of a platform to speak out against whatever they see as being wrong in the city, and to investigate any city services that aren't working well.
And of course, Jeff, speaking as a platform, we've seen numerous people use this as a platform for higher office, et cetera.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio used to be public advocate. And like you mentioned, State Attorney General Letitia James was public advocate. The one enumerated power that the public advocate does have is that they can introduce legislation into the city council. We saw Tish James doing that a lot as public advocate and really, spreading her weight around there. However, the public advocate can introduce, but cannot even vote on those bills to make them into law once they sponsor the bills.
All right, so with this crowded field of 17 different candidates, do we have any idea as to what turnout might be? Because again, this seems to be, I saw a tweet from one of the City Hall reporters on Friday who said, if you want a good laugh, go out and ask New Yorkers if they know there's an election on this today.
Right. Well, so I think people are setting their expectations really low. This is a special election in a very cold month of the year. There hasn't been a lot of advertising around the race. It's only this race that people are going to the polls for. And before last fall, when we saw historic turnout in the midterm elections, even regular midterm elections and regularly scheduled every 4-year, every 2-year elections for city and state offices had really low turnout. So we could be looking at the single digits here in terms of turnout. Even though it's a nonpartisan election, anybody can vote in it. People just don't know that it's happening.
And actually, Jeff, I also want to piggyback on the fact that we could expect low turnout is the fact that we could be doing this again in a couple of months, right? How does that work?
That's right. Funny enough, tomorrow, or Tuesday, Election Day, is also the first day that candidates can petition to get on the ballot for the June primary election. Yes, whoever wins the special election on Tuesday is only going to officially hold the public advocate seat until November, because the position is going to be up on the ballot again in the standard election season. So there is a primary in June for the Democratic and Republican parties. There will be a general election in November. Basically, the race for public advocate will never stop. It's going to last the entirety of 2019.
Yeah.
All right. So then going forward, with this position, and you guys did both talk a little bit about what's possible with someone who could become public advocate. Is it also possible that someone could heed the suggestion that this is an unnecessary position altogether and decide that we should eliminate it?
Well, even if they did want to do that, they couldn't unilaterally do that. That would require a change to the city's charter. So the public advocate can't just decide to abolish their position. I guess they could technically just not do anything and de facto have abolished their position.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually making it go away as a job that the taxpayers pay for and that the office is funded, the public advocate, that's one more thing that they can't do.
All right,
One
then.
interesting argument about this, though, has been that the budget for the public advocate special election, it's been very high. I think just public money, there's about $8 million going to the candidates. Mm-hmm. And then in addition, just the very expensive cost of opening up all of the election sites and conducting this election. The public advocate's office annual budget is only something like $3 million currently. And the election is going to be far, far more expensive than the annual budget. So a lot of the critics of the position are making actually more of a fiscal argument against it, saying this whole thing is ridiculous. You know, the public advocate barely has any responsibilities. Why are we spending so much money on this election?
Well, okay, so turning a little bit from things that people criticize as ridiculous to a person sometimes people criticize as ridiculous. our poor beleaguered mayor, Bill de Blasio. It seems like everybody has an opinion on him and his potential aspirations for national office. Just where do we see the different candidates come down, and how heated did that argument get?
Well, I asked this question in the debate of the candidates last week, and I was actually really surprised by the answers. To a person, everyone on the stage, all 7 candidates who qualified for last week's debate, were adamantly opposed to the idea of Bill de Blasio running for mayor. No one would even say that they thought that he was qualified on anything that he had done as mayor, which shocked me. I thought that somebody might have his back, but nobody did. And they ridiculed him. Ron Kim even called him delusional for thinking that he could run for president. It was brutal.
That's kind of harsh. So then, does this give us any indication as to what whoever the new public advocate might be, their relationship with the mayor?
I think there's 2 ways to be public advocate. You could work with the mayor and try and kind of create a partnership, or you could oppose the mayor. And it seems, based on what we've seen, at least in the campaign, that all of the candidates find it politically helpful to oppose the mayor, to be a counterweight to the mayor's office, as many of them are framing the needs of the office. So I would expect, Letitia James, the last public advocate, had a relatively friendly relationship with the mayor and didn't criticize him too often, I would say. Certainly on some issues like NYCHA, but overall relatively helpful relationship. I would say whoever the next public advocate would be, we can expect a more combative relationship.
And of course, that's interesting considering he became mayor after having been public advocate himself. Listen, I want to thank you both so much for joining us, for giving us some insight on this huge number of people who are going to be running for this very important office. And we hope people, of course, get out and vote.
Absolutely. Everybody go vote.
Yes, even if it's snowing.
Right.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.